Hello and welcome to Behind Beloit. I'm your host, Ellie Anderbyrne. This weekly talk show is an opportunity to slow down, ask questions, and introduce the people and systems that make Beloit tick. Today, I'm joined by Eric Miller, the Finance and Administrative Services Director for the City of Beloit, who plays a key role in managing the city's budget. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with just Finance and Administrative Services? It sounds a bit broad, a bit technical. In the day-to-day, what does your office do for the residents of the City of Beloit?
Sure. So we, in the Finance and Admin Services Department, we have a total of 5 different divisions that fall within my department. Things like accounting, clerk treasurer, assessor, we have risk management, and then of course finance is its separate division, all within the Finance and Administrative Services Department.
Okay. And if you're an average city resident, do you interact with those particular areas, or are they more behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I would say that the accounting division, finance, and risk management to a degree would be more of your kind of behind the scenes, backroom divisions that get things done that a lot of people don't tend to see. Whereas our clerk treasurer's office and our assessors tend to be more forward facing. That's kind of the first people that residents would see if they come into second floor city
Where you
hall.
go to pay your bill.
That's exactly right.
Yep. So thinking long term about this kind of job, every year the city has to fund the fire, the streets, parks, all the fun stuff and the services that we have in the city. What goes into building Beloit's annual budget? How does your office get involved in that? What's your role?
Yeah, so it's that's a big question, and the process in its entirety takes close to probably 6 to 7 months to complete. We're actually going to be starting budget here in about the next month or so, but what generally happens, like in a nutshell, is we will work with all the different departments, divisions, to submit what we call a baseline budget. And what that generally means is, what do I need at its minimum in order to do the job that I need to do? And once we get that baseline submitted, we kind of analyze where we think our revenues are going to end up, and then we have to start making adjustments based on where we think the revenues are going to come in. And then if we need to make some cuts or tweaks or whatever, then we work directly with department division heads and start going through in detail all of the line items within that budget. So we do that for a good few months to try to make sure that we are presenting a balanced budget to our city council.
So when you think about the expense side and the revenue side, on the revenues, I pay my taxes, I pay my utility bill. Are those the main sources of revenue, or there's other places revenue comes from?
Yeah, actually the main source of revenue in the city of Beloit is state and federal aids.
Okay.
So we receive close to 60% of our total revenues from state aids, particularly shared revenue within the state.
What does shared revenue mean?
So shared revenue is a system that the state created 100 years ago that basically collects sales tax, state sales tax, and then that state sales tax gets divvied out to local governments in the form of what we call shared revenue. It's formula based, which is a big convoluted formula, and then that gets distributed to local governments. So in Beloit, our share is pretty significant. And then the other funding source, the other main funding source would be property taxes, you alluded to. But it's not nearly the amount of what our shared revenue is. So it's only about 25 to 27% of our total revenue stream. Otherwise, like I said, you're about 60% in state and federal aids.
And then things like if I go to Edwards Ice Arena for public skate and pay $5, that's revenue too, but I imagine that's a really small drop in the bucket.
It's a very small piece of it, yeah.
Okay.
So all of the other revenue streams, such as park and rec programs, that kind of thing, permit fees, all those other types of revenues we receive only make up about 10% of the total revenue that we get.
Yep, so a lot of different places.
A lot of different places, and they're pretty minimal fees that we tend to charge for those kind of things. It doesn't offset the cost of those programs, but it helps to offset the cost of those programs.
Right. And then on the expense side, I imagine when you're working with all the different other leaders within the city, trying to figure out what are the things that are mandatory and like have to be spent or we'll be in trouble with the state, and what are the things that are more discretionary, like what exactly do we do in our Parks and Rec program or something like that. So what's that balance kind of like?
Yeah, so the main expense that we have is people. And that is pretty universal regardless of whether you're a private corporation or you're a local government. I'd say about 80% of our total expenditures across the board are made up of salary and benefits, because you need the people to do the work for the residents of the city, and that's just the way that it goes. So, and over the years, we've done a really good job of trying to be as lean as we possibly can. That does have a direct impact on our levies, so we want to keep those levies low and keep taxes low as best we can. But as far as discretionary spending goes, we don't have a lot of discretionary spending. These are really important things that we need to get our work done. And as I said, over the decades, we've had to trim those down just in order to, be solvent. So we've had to do that.
But something like clean water flowing out of the taps is sort of a non-negotiable.
That's kind of an important thing, and that's done through our utilities, which that is one of the back things that we do in the finance department is we do prepare the utility bills. And we are also on the clerk treasurer side. We're the ones that are collecting on those utility bills, but they're two separate divisions that are doing it. But yeah, that's how those types of things remain, solvent, and how we're able to pay those bills through our billing system, and then our water rates and our sewer rates and that kind of thing. That pays for all of that infrastructure and all those people that are doing that work.
So how does the planning for that sort of thing work? Projects like utilities, roads, sewage, clean water, pump stations, they must take millions of dollars and takes a lot of planning. What does it come together? That's not just the annual budget, surely. That's a longer term thing. What does that process look like?
So it all goes hand in hand.
Okay.
When I mentioned that we're going to be starting the budget here in the next month or so, we start on the capital improvement side. That's the first thing that we do is we take a look at what projects have been approved. We look at what projects have been submitted in our long-term plan. We do have a 5-year capital improvement plan. And so we look at what might have changed from the last submittal to this particular submittal to see if it was still in line to be done this year. Whatever project you're looking at, it could be a particular road, it could be some infrastructure, could be any number of things. And then, we look at those annually, but then put together that future plan so that we can always be prepared for when that project comes up, that it's not something out of the blue. And now how do we figure out how to pay for that? But we put together a plan. We do a bond issue almost every year. That's what is the primary funding source for our capital plan.
So how do bonds work?
Yeah, so we basically it's a loan.
Okay.
Whereas we issue bonds or notes, we sell those bonds and notes to the open market. That revenue comes in when they purchase those bonds that have a stated interest rate, and then we use those funds to finance our projects.
Okay.
And then depending on
pay them back a little each year.
Yep. Depending on whether it's a bond or a note is really dictates how long we pay that back for. And then we just pay a portion of that annually, back to the people that bought those bonds. So it's an investment. Bonds are a safer investment. Not a lot of defaults. It's not like you're putting it in the stock market or anything like that. You're pretty much assured you're going to get your money back.
Municipal bonds are pretty safe. Yeah,
they're one of the safest things that you can purchase. So it's a heavy needed market, but if you want something safe, secure, you know you're going to get your money back, and you know you're going to get a decent interest rate, you look in the municipal bond market. So that's how we finance a lot of our capital projects. The only ones that are a little bit different in that are the utilities you mentioned, water and sewer, things like that. Those are specific types of funds. Those are what we call enterprise funds. So all of that work does not impact the general fund really at all. And so those projects are mostly paid by the user fees that you see on your utility bill. And then if it's not being paid exclusively from the fees, that's what then is being used to pay back any bonds or interest that we did borrow from a utility side. So it's a little bit different, but for the most part, they're very self-sustaining.
So it seems like a lot's going on inside your office and your areas. What role do outside auditors or outside financial reporting play in all of this?
Yeah, so each year when we do issue bonds, there's certain requirements that then we have to do. And one of those is to have an independent audit. So when you are telling people that buy your bonds that, hey, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, we better make sure we do A, B, C, and D. And so we have independent auditors that come in on an annual basis. They look very closely at policies and procedures, make sure that we're following those policies and procedures. They do testing on transactions, look through a lot of our books in its entirety, and just make sure that we're doing things right. And then what that also does, though, is it gets published, and we present that to City Council. The annual audit gets published and posted on our website because we want it to be as clear and as transparent as possible. We do the same thing with the budget that gets posted annually to our website.
And that would be standard practice across pretty much all municipalities to
pretty
do those
much.
sorts of practices.
Yes.
It's a nice assurance to everyone that things are working the way they're supposed to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Beyond finance, your department also has internal city operations. What are some of those behind-the-scenes services, HR, IT, purchasing, that residents might not realize is part of the way the city government works?
Yeah, so HR and IT are separate departments, but we all still work very closely together. Purchasing is under my department, and that is one thing that does happen behind the scenes. There's a lot of things that the city has to buy.
Yeah, what does the city buy? Tell me more about that. What is?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like super exciting, some of the stuff. I mean, it's some general office supplies, that kind of thing. But we are involved in major purchases, equipment, fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, all that kind of stuff.
A screw that the maintenance team needs,
all of
everything.
It. Yeah, all of it, from a screw to a $1.6 million ladder truck. So I mean, there's a lot of big ticket items that do come through our office, and we just have to make sure, as the procurement office, we have to make sure that all of those things are being purchased in a responsible way, because at the end of the day, we have to be the best stewards of city tax dollars. People are paying those tax bills on an annual basis, and we got to make sure that we're using that money appropriately. And so we follow those policies.
It must seem really tough because when you're buying everything from ice cream to sell at Kruger Pool to fire trucks. How does someone in your office in procurement kind of know the whole range of things? Who shops for a fire truck?
Well,
and then
how
do they know what rules
that's
to follow?
True. Yes, and certainly buying concession type items isn't going to fall into the same category necessarily, and it boils
as a $400,000 fire truck.
And it boils down to what does your policy look like, and are we following the guidelines that are set up within our purchasing policy? So smaller type items, we'll use ice cream again as an example. That's a small enough ticket item that generally a supervisor or division head can just purchase because it's already been vetted through the budget process. It's already in the budget. So we don't need to go out and get separate approvals, on a daily basis to do, things like that.
Concessions at a pool, yeah.
Right. Whereas when you're buying $1 million fire truck, that is a bigger planning process. We have to go through the entire capital process where there's requests that are being made. How are we going to fund it? How are we going to finance it? When are we going to, take possession of that? What does that look like? And then, that's when city council 100% has to be behind to say, yes, we are committed to buying that particular piece of
fire
equipment.
truck or
whatever it is. And so once that happens, there's a process to go about doing that as well. And we have to make sure that we're going through a proper bid process to make sure that it's fair for everybody to have an opportunity to bid. We can't just say we're going to do that one thing with you because we like you. That's just not how it works. Everything has to be clear, open, and fair to give everybody an opportunity. And that's what our policy says. And that's what we, in the finance and particularly in the accounting department, that's what we're doing. We're making sure that those processes and procedures take place. So, all of it from, like I said, from whatever down to the smallest piece of paper.
Down to the smallest paper clips and things that are needed.
Yep.
Looking ahead, what are some of the biggest financial challenges or opportunities that cities like Beloit are going to be facing over the next decade?
Yeah, so we've had, I would say, and this is generally my canned answer when we talk about challenges with local government finance, we fall under levy limits in the state of Wisconsin, and we have for a couple of decades now. I'd say that's still probably one of the biggest challenges that we have to face. And what that means is that we're limited to the amount that we can increase our levy by. So we don't have complete control over the revenue streams that we need to necessarily make the city run at its best. And so when you're restricted like that, you have to be a little bit more creative to make sure that you're still getting all the work that needs to be done. And you don't always have the luxury of being able just to throw it on the tax levy and let's just increase taxes. We don't have the ability to do that. And I think that's a little bit of a misnomer sometimes is I think there's a lot of people out there that tend to think that we can do that.
Just charge the taxpayers more.
Right. Well, you need some more, police, or you need more fire, or you need more DPW staff. We'll just put it on the tax levy. Well, we can't do that. And so I think that becomes a major challenge, and that means that we need to find additional revenue streams outside of a tax levy. And how do we do that? So we're constantly trying to find different ways to bring in different revenue streams to not increase our property taxes. Which then leads into your other part of that question is, what is that opportunity? And I would say that, we currently have probably the biggest construction project that we've had in the city of Beloit going on right now with the Ho-Chunk Casino being built. That's an opportunity. So what does that look like? How might we be able to, parlay that into some additional revenue streams, maybe with future land development or something like that around, around that area, or just grow the city altogether. Those are the opportunities that we, currently have that we can try to then take advantage of and get some more of those revenue streams I was just talking about.
Makes sense. Not easy.
No, it's not. Yeah, they don't. New revenue streams don't pop up every other day. Let's just put it that way.
Right. We spoke a different week with Drew Pennington, hearing about the work he's doing to try to grow the city of Beloit and bring more money and resources in various ways.
Yep, and we work very closely together. And again, like I mentioned earlier, finance in general, it touches everything. So we work very closely with all the different departments, all the time. How are we going to try and fund this? What does it look like if we need to do this instead of that? Can we do that? So we're involved in a lot of different things. So it's not just pigeonholed into, one particular thing in the finance department.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting job. You get to see a lot of the different parts of the city that way.
Yep.
How did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, so my background is in accounting. I got an accounting degree from the University of Toledo. I worked in the private sector for about 7 or 8 years. And then I started doing private sector healthcare work, which then led into public sector healthcare work. And then that parlayed into the city career that I started here almost 22 years ago. And so I got to see the whole gamut from a private side into the public side, which really was beneficial to be able to see both sides of the coin, because then it can help you understand, what other, non-public people are seeing and feeling and how they do things. So I worked for the prior finance director for about 10 years, doing a lot of the finance function. And then I was able to get this job about 12 years ago.
Seems like an interesting place to be.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting.
Is there something else about the City of Beloit's finance and administrative functions that viewers should know?
One of the things that we do that doesn't really seem to fit when you think of finance is, so the clerk treasurer's office is in my department, and the treasury side would be more the things you might think of the finance side of things. But the clerk side, they manage all the elections that happen within the city, and so that's under my purview as well. And I think that's such an important piece of what we do, even though it only occurs so infrequently. There's so much stuff that goes into running an efficient, fair election. A lot of people don't understand the work that it takes to put that one day together. And so my staff, they do a fantastic job of doing that and making sure that people feel like their voice is being heard. So that's one thing I just wanted to add on the finance side.
And the city clerk is a staff position, but the county clerk is elected.
That's right.
Right? Is that typical across the state of Wisconsin to have a mix of employees and elected?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the way that I understand it. Local clerks are positions, same as mine. And then they work very closely with the county clerk when reporting election results and that sort of thing. But yep, that's typically how it goes.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful to talk to you,
Thank
about
you.
this behind the scenes aspects of the City of Beloit that really makes it tick, makes all the other services that we enjoy happen in a way that is efficient, functioning, and uses taxpayer dollars really wisely.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We've been speaking with Eric Miller, the Director of Finance and Administrative Services for the City of Beloit. Welcome back to Behind Beloit, an inside look at the things that make the City of Beloit tick. We are now many episodes in and here with our executive producer, Brian Morello, to reflect a bit on the episodes we've done and think about what's next. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me back. It's a good checkpoint. We're off to a good start. I think we've had 7 episodes.
Yep, so remind viewers, what were you hoping to accomplish with this show?
Well, we have the luxury of having an access television station here in town and capacity on the station for more shows, so we decided to cook up a little Behind Beloit effort to see what's going on at more of a easy to understand level in municipal government and maybe in the local sports scene, and take advantage of the fact that we can provide hyper local content that you wouldn't easily find on your network television or YouTube or something like that. So we're very kind of entrepreneurial and startup and just gave it a go, and here we are 7 episodes in, and I think we've got a pretty good start at it. How do you feel about it so far?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been, each week we come in and I hear from somebody who someone else has already lined up. Wonderful to have a producer on the show and come up and I ask interesting questions and hear really cool things about what makes a city tick. It's, you live somewhere. I've lived a bunch of places in my life, and every city has all kinds of services, clean water flows, streets work, Parks and Rec has fun stuff going on, and it's cool to hear about all the work that happens behind the scenes to make this city a great place to work, but also, you know, probably lots of cities have these kinds of things happening behind the scenes, so it's fun to think about.
So maybe we can remind the viewers, I mean, up to date, who have we had on so far? We've had Public Works.
Yep, so we had Public Works. We learned about what makes the streets go, what happens with snow removal, all those decisions. The underground with the pipes that bring clean water to your house and dirty water away. So we also heard from Water Services, heard about the water treatment plants, the pumping stations, water testing to make sure the water's safe. We met with the Greater Beloit Economic Development Chair to hear about what is happening in the city of Beloit to grow the city, more people, more businesses, more tax revenue to provide for more services for the city. We also met with a Beloit College student working on the 10-mile city report with a number of city partners to help everyone think about the economic impact of not just the city within the city limits, but thinking of Beloit as a 10-mile city with people coming in from commuters and residents and others coming from a much broader area in addition to that local city. And we've heard about the finance functions of the city as well. What does it take? Who takes care of the dollars? Who figures out where taxpayer dollars go, where state money goes, and making sure that we're using their resources most efficiently for the city of Beloit?
Yeah, such a complicated job. And then 1 week I subbed in for you, and I remember we had the city clerk in as well. And of course, they run the city council meetings and keep those trains moving, but also their biggest job is to run local elections and make sure they're efficient and fair, and that was enlightening.
And trusted.
Definitely trusted. And I think she gave a good overview and a sense of that, you know, they really take it seriously and are trying to do a good job with that.
Yeah, it's a big takeaway.
So we're at the halfway point of this season. What do we have on deck that you're aware of? Parks and Rec stuff?
Hey, that's a great question, Brian. We haven't talked to Parks and Rec, and certainly there's a lot of exciting things there. Beloit Winterfest has happened this year again. I'm sure that the Parks and Rec folks are busy looking ahead to Kruger Pool for the summer. They're doing a whole study on what might happen with Kruger Pool in the future. They do summer camps, there's sports leagues. I think Edwards Ice Arena just had its last free skate of the season.
Right.
So there's all kinds of exciting things happening in that space.
You got the public golf course.
Public golf course, yeah. When does the golf season open, Brian?
Well, I would think it's weather dependent, but probably by mid-April, I would guess. I think they try to get those open as soon as possible. I have mercifully put my clubs away about 20 years ago, so I'm not really on top of
You're not in that game
the
anymore.
golf scene. Yeah, it was really a good idea.
Yeah, but you got to save your swim trunks for Kruger Pool.
Yeah, I don't think people want to see that either. But the Kruger Pool, I remember, because I used to come out to Beloit as a young kid, and they had a high dive, which I don't know if a lot of pools that are just public pools have those anymore. But, those were kind of thrilling to see everybody barreling off of that thing.
Were you brave enough as a child?
Yeah, we all, I don't know if it was
turn?
brave or stupid, but yeah, they had this really neat natatorium, if you've ever been out there, with the big walls around it, and it's a really beautiful pool. So that's been a public amenity that's been around for many, many decades. It's really neat. I love that pool. And the old Boys and Girls Club used to be adjacent to it, and basketball courts and some baseball fields. So the west side of Beloit, that was where a lot of sports and community involvement happened. And the golf course is right on that same property up on Burton and Olympia. In fact, I remember my cousins used to live across the street. The hospital used to be right over there as well. And then one of the holes to the golf course has a big decline in it, which was great for tobogganing. So
well, I've never played golf, but I know about Hospital Hill for the sledding.
Hospital Hill, yeah, that's what it calls. So Hospital Hill, and my cousins lived on the house right across the street from it. So,
I wonder if their parents knew when they bought the house what a perfect sledding opportunity it would be.
I think they did, because they bought it for my grandparents. Okay. So I think they already knew that they had a built-in amenity. Yeah. So Beloit's got a lot of fun, free, easy to use things that I think Parks and Rec, we can talk about that, and and
there's all the
really
trails.
fun.
Trails along
So
Turtle
what
Creek.
trails
I'm
do
thinking
you
about the
use?
Turtle Creek trails.
Then when you say Turtle Creek, where do you mean?
Well, there you can hook up into it a lot of different places. There's a parking lot off of Milwaukee Road,
Oh, yeah.
just near the intersection with where it turns into White.
Back by East Ridge Road and
Yep,
up
and so you can come in and go back, and it's behind all those East Ridge houses, but you can hook up to that a bunch of different places, off Prairie, off Cranston. There's a bunch of different places you can hook up to that whole trail network. So
Yeah, I love that trail. That's where
Yeah.
you can pull in that tiny little parking lot right off Milwaukee Road and walk right back in.
Yep, yep,
And they mow a big wide path for it and everything.
yep.
Yeah, that's an awesome trail. Where else do you hike?
Those trails are on that side, but there's also some trails you can connect to on the other side of Turtle Creek that you can hook up to back on like Bootmaker and Arrowhead behind Piggly Wiggly.
Oh, yeah.
Some places you can access in from there. And then, of course,
Big
City
Hill.
of Beloit, Big Hill Park has lots
Yeah.
of trails for walking and biking as well.
Yeah, because you can hook onto the Peace Trail bike route all the way up through Janesville over by Big Hill, which is awesome.
Yeah. A lot of things to do in the City of Beloit.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Okay.
Lucky to live here.
Well, I hope that's a good tune-up and whets people's appetite for upcoming shows. I want to thank you. It's been wonderful having you as the host, and we're going to keep
welcome.
going and keep putting in
Thank
good
you.
shows together.
Yeah, and viewers, if you have ideas or suggestions, reach out to Brian Morello, our executive producer. You can find his contact information on the Beloit College website at the Center for Entrepreneurship and Liberal Education at Beloit.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from people and provide things that they're interested in. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks for joining us today, Brian.
Okay.
Thank you. We've just been speaking with Brian Morello, the executive producer for Behind Beloit.